Zombie Doll Face Art Makeup Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi guys! In today's video I'm going to be doing this zombie doll makeup look, and usually you see either zombies or you see like the cracked porcelain doll makeup, and I thought I could put those together and make some sort of weird hybrid, which is what I was going for here. And so I've got my hair painted like brains with blood dripping down and then cracks in the porcelain and the classic doll makeup. And I was using some of Itay Mineral Cosmetics powder foundation for this. I really like that foundation. It doesn't, even since it's powder, sometimes I feel like that makes you look like you have desert dry skin, and it does not do that. And liquid foundation always seems really oily on me. I've tried all sorts of them and doesn't end well. So I think I finally found my thing. I'm very happy. Anyways, so that's exciting. But I hope you like this design. It's really easy for Halloween costuming goes. You just have to put clothes on. There's not too much costume specifics. It's quick, easy, fun. Hope you like it, and don't forget to click subscribe to see my future videos as well. So I'm going to part my hair down the middle and then just sort of section off the sides. And then on the side where I want the brains to be, I'm going to be mixing in a couple kinds of gel and then a hair wax, and then just smoothing that down as much as possible. My hair is really quite thick, and so it doesn't like to smooth down, but you know, with some persistence I can get it pretty smooth. And then I'm just going to add some more, and then on the other side I'm going to start and I'm going to do a Dutch braid with my hair, and I'm going to incorporate the other part that I had pulled back, and I had just pinned that under the other side of my hair, and so that kind of gets hidden and just blends in. And then you can continue to braid, and I just pulled out the braid a little bit to make it a little more even. And also I want to have a little bit of volume between the hair that's slicked down and the hair that's not, so I also pulled that part of it just up a little bit as well. And then I'm going to be curling the ends of my hair, and this is optional. Depending on how long your hair is, you might not have the room to do this, or you could braid your hair all the way down to the ends and then you don't need to do that either. I wanted to have just a little bit of a curled bottom. It seems like dolls usually have their hair in nice curled little ends, so I decided to go with that. And then with pink and red colored hairspray, I'm going to take a piece of paper and just mark off my hair where I don't want it sprayed, and then spray it and color it. And I found that this is a lot easier than trying to paint your hair because it takes so much paint and time and effort. Once that's dried though, you're going to want to clean up your skin, so I'm just using a makeup removing towel and cleaning up any of that hairspray that landed on my skin. And then I'm going to be applying some moisturizer, which is a primer for the foundation. That's all they say to use, is just a layer of moisturizer. And then I'm going to use the kabuki brush that they have on their website, and I'm going to start buffing in the color. And I'm going to put the colors that I used in the description box below. Everyone has a different complexion, so but I'll put the colors that I used on myself down in the description box so that you can see those. And I was going to use this, and this actually had amazing coverage as well. And I was really pleasantly surprised, and it has a very satiny finish. And I'm using some more of that same powder foundation on a foundation brush, and I'm going to sort of press it in around my eye area. I have dark circles from allergies, and so I like to try to cover this up a little more, and I found that doing it this way worked really well. And then I'm going to go over and just do a really light eye makeup. But anyways, the foundation has a very satiny finish, which makes it very nice for body paint, and also kind of lended itself towards the porcelain doll look because they have sort of a not glossy look to their porcelain skin, but it's not really matte either, and so it worked out really well. And then I'm just going to do slight outlining of my eyes with some black on a little angled brush, and I'm also going to be filling in my eyebrows with black. Normally I do sort of a dusty brown color, but today I thought with the porcelain doll, black would be more appropriate. And then I'm going to be filling in my waterline with a white eyeshadow stick, just like that, or white eye stick, or whatever you want to call it. And then I'm going to be painting with body paint my lower lashes, and then underneath my lash line. So I'm just going to add a little thickness and enlarge my eye underneath there with white eyeliner. And well, it's actually body paint, but you could use white eyeliner if you wanted to instead. And this is going to make your eyes look much bigger and help with that doll appearance. Once you have all the finishing touches on there, I know at the moment it looks rather strange, but I promise once you get further along, it doesn't even hardly show. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to outline that area with some black eyeshadow on that small little angled brush. So just go underneath that new white section of your eye that you added, and just go through and line that out. And that's going to be your new lash line once you add the falsies later on. And I'm also just going to go into my crease a little bit with the black to help define that. And then I'm going to curl my lashes and apply some black mascara. That little line that goes into your creases hardly gets noticed later on, but it almost adds a outline painted appearance, which is kind of nice. And don't apply any mascara on your lower lashes. And now I'm going to be adding a pair of really long falsies to my upper lash line, and then a slightly shorter pair to the lower lash line. And so the lower lash line is actually your new lash line, not your actual lash line. So that line that we added later on. I'm going to highlight the inner corner of my eye with some shimmery white pigment. And then I'm going to add some very pink blush to my cheeks. And when I say very pink, it's not like intensely pink. It's got a nice pink hue to it. And then I'm going to just bronze a little bit and contour my face very, very mildly. Just a little bit around the perimeter of my face and under my cheekbones. And then just a little bit around my nose. Really not very much. I want to just keep a very smooth texture to my skin and not have it look like it's got too much going on. And I'm going to highlight with more of that white shimmery pigment on my cheekbones, on the tip of my nose, and on my upper lip. And then this part I know is out of focus, I apologize, but I'm going to be filling in my lips with a nude lipstick that's about the same color as my skin. And then I'm going to be lining my lips with red. And you don't want to go all the way out to the actual corners of your lips. You want to bring it in about halfway on either side, just to make your lips look like they're a little bit narrower. And then I'm going to fill it in and then cover it with some lip gloss. And then on the actual corners of my lips, I'm going to take and draw lines coming down and then outline the area where the brains are. On the other side of my face, just outline that little bit, and then I'm going to add little lines coming down from the lower lash line like so, and then a crack in my porcelain head. And this is on the same side with the zombie. And then I'm going to be painting out the brains, and so you do like a series of U's going one direction, and then flip that over and do a U on the other side going up, so that the points of one U go into the round part of the other one. And I'm sorry my camera cut off on there. I don't know what was happening. I think I ran out of space on my SD card. But then I'm going to go and shadow around all of those lines, so on my part, on my hair, and then down between the brains and the porcelain with just a black eyeshadow on a little blender brush. And then with white, I'm going to be highlighting everywhere there's black. So I'm going to highlight that same porcelain line where I just shadowed it with black, and then around the cracks, just like that with some white eyeshadow, and then down the lines where my mouth are. And on my nose just a little bit. And then with some white paint, I'm going to be highlighting my cracks. That sounds a little weird. The cracks in the porcelain. And then I'm going to be highlighting the lines coming down from my mouth and the brains. You want your brains to look a little bit wet and kind of, moist, I guess. And so you're just going to add some highlights on them to give them that shiny appearance. And I did also some highlights with pink, which is what I'm doing right now. And then I'm going to be filling in all the gaps in there with some black. And so anywhere where those U's, the rounded part, is not being used, I guess, you can fill in. And then with some fake blood, I'm going to be adding my drips down my face. And I also added some fake blood on my hair too. It depends on the kind of fake blood you have. Some of them have more of like a gelatin consistency. You probably don't want to put those in your hair, but mine's a really liquidy one. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this design and face paint idea, and share any recreations with me on Facebook and Instagram. I would love to see them. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!